Aloha everybody and welcome to the Wild Wahine. This is Kaylani and this is your astro forecast for October 5th through the 10th. So if you are feeling frustrated, if you're feeling a little annoyed, or if you're just going back and forth with everything, then it probably has to do with what's going on this week with the new moon and with the cazimi that's happening between Mars, the Sun, and Mercury. So definitely listen in so we can give you some insights on what's happening and you can use this energy so you can make fantastic choices in your life. So we will start off with first talking about Pluto, then we're going to be talking about, because it's stationing direct, then we'll talk about Venus moving and changing signs into Sagittarius, yay, and leaving Scorpio. And then we'll talk about the new moon that's happening in Libra because there's so much energy with that. And then we're going to talk about what's going on with the Sun and Mercury and Mars and that cazimi that's happening that's like kind of adding to the frustration, but also like clarifying as well. So we'll first start off with the Pluto stationing direct in the sign of Capricorn. It will station direct on the 6th. It went retrograde in April on the 27th. Now, Pluto stationing direct, it is an outer planet. You know, modern astronomers right now think it's a dwarf planet, or they call it a dwarf planet. So it is very far out there. So when it stations, it essentially is still for a while. It doesn't even move until it starts going direct again, and then it moves very, very slowly. It can spend anywhere from 12 to 20 years in one sign. So Pluto just moves slow. It's not even like moving to Aquarius until like 4 or 5 years from now. You know, it's not like we're going to feel it in this monumentous way, but we will feel still and we will feel a little bit stuck, especially with what's going on with the new moon and how it's going to be affecting the Mercury retrograde because it's square that. So Pluto has to deal with the places where we transform, the places where we feel empowered, the places where we take power, the places where we hide things that need to come to the surface so that we can move on. So it does have this kind of butterfly type of energy where it's transforming, and it's through the transformation, which can be incredibly difficult and incredibly painful and very crisis driven, but it does kind of change us into something else. And this new person that we become, you know, really is the embodied person that we want to be. So all of those things are very Plutonian in that sense. It's also a place where we can like purge things, a place where we are detoxing things that no longer work for us, where we're giving things up so that we can move to a different level, whether that be in a psychological sense, whether that be, you know, detoxing from chemicals in our body, or whether it be detoxing from drama, which is also another thing that happens, or for the need to be in control, you know, all of those things. Venus is moving into the sign of Sagittarius on October 7th through November 5th. It is leaving and saying goodbye from Scorpio, where it dug deep, where it was kind of healing and transforming and dealing with like a lot of tension. Now we're in a place in Jupiter's sign of Sagittarius. So, you know, we have a benefic planet in the sign of another benefic planet. And they actually will be making sextile on the 28th. So mark your calendar for that, because that's going to feel really good, because then Jupiter is going to be giving some reception to Venus, you know, because Venus is in Jupiter's sign. So that's going to be awesome. But we'll feel more energy. We'll feel more energy around the things that we love. Remember, Venus is all about the places where we're artistic, the places where things are fair, the places of beauty, balance, and all of those types of things. It's places where we fall in love and has to do with our relationships and how we're relating to other people. Venus is a very relational planet. So you're relating now in a much more energetic way. You're relating in an expansive way. You're relating through like big, grandiose ideas. That could be about religion. That could be about astrology. It could be about spirituality or any of those things, because those are all like Sagittarian things. It could be travel to beautiful foreign places, because Jupiter rules long distance travel. It could be falling in love with somebody that's from another place or from another country or another ethnicity or that speaks another language or something like that. Just the foreign things, the things that's different, is going to be very attractive right now. It could be you wanting to learn another language or learn a philosophy or going away on a spiritual retreat. It could also do with like travel, like artistic based travel. So if you're an artist, whether you're an actor or a visual artist, if you're taking the show on the road and you're just meeting different people and you're sharing your art in that way, that can be a really cool thing. If you're traveling to go see art or traveling to go see something that's beautiful or artistic, we can see all of those things as well. It could also just interpersonally, it could be just about, you know, really connecting to people and like their source, like what they believe in, what their ethics are, and aligning those ethics together. Like, these are the things that we believe in. We're standing standing in these things that we believe, like our heart is there. So if you're finding someone or you're attracted to someone, it could be attracted, especially during this time, if you find that happening for you, it could be that you're attracted to the way the person thinks, the way that their view of the world, their spiritual sense. It's like falling in love with the soul. I mean, of course, you're going to want all of the beautiful bells and whistles. It is Venus. So, we're falling in love with the physicality too, but it becomes very important what the person is on the inside right now. For the new moon in the sign of Libra, this is going to be happening at 13 degrees. So we're going to be experiencing a lot of different things with this particular new moon, which is happening depending upon where you are in the world tonight, but we'll feel this energy over the next couple of days. And remember, this lunation is lasting about 2 weeks until we have the full moon. Everything about this new moon is very much indicating what is happening with the full moon that is going to be happening, I believe, on the 20th. And that full moon is going to be happening in sign of Aries. But, we are dealing with lots of Mars energy because we have Mars conjunct the moon. So the new moon is co-present right now, of course, with the sun, because that's what a new moon is. It's the sun and the moon in conjunction. We have Mars there. We have Mercury retrograde there. And so there is a lot of like Libra energy with this particular new moon. Now, the people who will feel this the most or feel it kind of in a heavy way are people who either have their big three, their sun, moon, rising, or if you have planets or points in Aries, Libra, Cancer, and Capricorn. All of you cardinal beauties will be feeling this, in a rather intense way. And so, we're just going to ease with this energy because it can be feeling like very frustrating. And that's what happens, especially because Mars is in Libra and it's, not in its strong place. It's also combust. So Mars things are not going the way that Mars would like to just kind of break out on the scene and do whatever it wants to do. And it has so many different factors that it's dealing with. So that's where the frustration is really coming from. It's also forming a square to Pluto, and Pluto around this time is stationing. So it will be moving direct, but it takes a long time for it to do that. It's like backing up a big plane or a big truck. You're just there waiting forever. So the aggravation is coming from the inability to take quick action. The desire may or may not depend on how its aspect did be there, but there's a desire for something to happen, and it just doesn't necessarily feel like it is because there's so many options and so many different possibilities, and that's where it's coming from. With the moon in Libra, Libra is concerned with Libran things, with Venusian things, right? Fairness and equality, with beauty, with everything being, working out, with there not being a lot of divisive things. It's about smoothing things over so that everything works together in a very seamless type of way. So but it's also relational. So this has to do with our relationships. This has to do with our work and jobs. It has to do with your personal will and what you desire and the way that you think and the way that you're focused. And these are all things that a lot of times when they're relational and they have to do with somebody else, we don't have control over that. We just don't have control over making everything seamless all the time. And so this is where it's coming from. It's like, I want it to be perfect and wonderful. And then it's just like something comes in, and it's like what happened earlier in the week where there was just no Facebook and Instagram and it's just like, I know you want to go on there and like cat videos, but it's just not happening. You'll have to figure something out. It's about standing up really at this time for what you believe in. What are the things that you're focusing on? It's about justice. It's about what's right. It's about what's fair, and standing up for what's fair and what's right. And sometimes when you do that, especially in the legal sense and when it has to do with any kind of judgment, it takes a long time. You have to hear all the evidence or see all the evidence. You have to hear all the different arguments, and then you make a decision on where you want to go. Calculating all of that, gathering all of that information can be frustrating, can take a long time, but you're weighing through and sifting through all of that so that you can take action. So there's the desire there to have the tranquility, to have the grace, to have the stillness, all of those things. However, we're dealing with the planets there. We're dealing with the sun, which is laser focused on something. It's shedding light on things, or it could be blinding the issue as well. You have Mars, which is combust. Mars, or any planet, when it gets very close to the sun, very, very close to the sun kind of overwhelms the planet with its rays and everything. And so it weakens all of the good, juicy things about the planet. Now, when the planet is in the heart of the sun, it becomes cazimi, and then it's kind of like reborn in this birth of light, so to speak. This is all archetypally speaking. And so then you actually have a moment of clarity and breakthrough, and then on the other end, it's combust again, challenged, and other things. But it comes out with something. It comes out with the boon, in a sense. Mars is there. It wants to be active. It can't be active because of it's in Libra because it's combust the sun, and it's just sitting there frustrated, wanting to do something, not able to do something. And then you also have Mercury, which is retrograde, which is our minds and the way we're thinking, the way that we're communicating, the way that things are going back and forth and travel and all of those things. And all of those things leave us feeling a bit confused, leave us weighing things, leave us just not sure where to go and what not to do and how we're going to kind of negotiate that. And so that can be really hard, because if we have in our mind, we want to take action and do things, but we can't really decide what to do. And then Mars is like, let's take action now, but then it doesn't know what to do. So it feels like a little bit like a weenie. You know, that moment, it's like, I'm not able to do things. Why? So we're just holding, you know, it's a bit of a holding pattern at this time. So people often like to set intention with the new moon. They want to do something new. They want to do something different. This is not necessarily that type of new moon. It's not a like, let's set an intention for this brand new thing that I really want. Not really. I know it feels like it would be because it's Libra, but this is just not the energy necessarily for that. But it is a really good time to, because the retrograde is there and is active with this new moon, it is a really good time to continue to work on the thing that you're continuing on. You can start one new thing with the thing that you're already working on. If you have a project and there's 10 things that you have to do for the project, start the third thing for that project that you've been working on this whole time. Not a time to switch and do something else. It really is a stick the landing. Let's continue to focus on the thing that we're doing, because just like an arrow, when you pull it all the way back, that tautness, like, and that sharpness and that focus as to where you're directing the arrow, that's what you want to do, because there will be a time where you're able to let go and hit the target, but now is not it. Now is the time to be very specific and very like structured about where you want it to go and what you want to do. And that only really comes from cleaning up your stuff, all of the stuff that's all over the place. This is like a really good time for you to be able to do that. So you want to activate on that thing, as opposed to saying, oh, look, something shiny, something new, which is really just distraction. You know, focus on these things that are already in play, so that when the new shiny fun things come, you can go ahead and go focus on that. About the stellium that's happening, about conjunctions and about cazinis, let's focus in, let's dig a little bit deeper into that, just so that we can, you know, understand it more. So on the 8th, the moon is actually going to be leaving Libra, and it'll be hanging out in Scorpio. And so we'll be left with the sun, we'll be left with Mars, and we'll be left with Mercury, which is retrograde at that point. Now they will be forming something called a cazimi. A cazimi is when the planets are in the heart of the sun. So you will, during all this time of frustration and not knowing and kind of going back and forth, you will have a moment of clarity where you can take laser sharp focus and go get what you want and grab it. Kind of like what a chameleon does when he sees a fly, and then the tongue rapidly comes out and has the fly, and then it's like no one even saw what's happening. You will have that moment. What we're dealing with is a combust Mercury and a combust Mars. So let's talk about that for a second, and then we'll talk about and the challenges that come with that, and then we'll talk about the cazimi, which is where we're going to have a little bit of a breakthrough. When Mars is combust the sun, which is happening October 7th through kind of the 20th. Mars and the sun will be just really good friends for a while, just really degrees from each other until the full moon, which is why I said I'm not even really looking at this as two different things. I'm looking at kind of the new moon, and the new moon is part 1 and the full moon is really part 2. The theme is spreading over, and it's like little fires are being started now that will be ablaze when come this full moon. So when Mars is in a combust state, it wants to fight, it wants to do Mars things, which is be aggressive. It wants to kind of sort of just do its own thing. It wants to be able to stand up and say, I'm leaving. It wants to be able to say, stand up and say, I'm fighting and I'm going forward. It wants to be able to do all of those things, and you might have that moment to do that. It also can be jumping between back and forth, the offensive and the defensive. If you're having issues, especially relational issues with people, it's like one minute you're the good guy, 1 minute you're the bad guy, 1 minute they're the good guy, 1 minute they're the bad guy. It's a lot of contention that's happening, you know, in that space, and the inability to kind of really activate. When Mercury's combust the sun, we have an indecisive nature. We have the need for things to want to be perfect, for the details to be together, but just the anxiousness and the frustration of them not being. Sifting through all of the paperwork, having all of these these conversations that's just filled with information, and you're not really exactly sure what to do with the information, or how to implement the information, or how to activate on the information. It could be spending a lot of time weighing the options, but it also could be talking yourself into choices to just turn around and talk yourself back out of the choices, which essentially leaves you in the same space. When Mars, the Sun, and Mercury will be cazimi, which happens on the 9th, it's at 16 degrees. We have some positive things that can really happen from that. there's a laser focus that will happen. There's really weighing the pros and cons. It can be quickly seizing that opportunity. When the opportunity comes, especially around the 9th, you'll be able to make a decision. You'll be able to do something. It really does seem, because it's so interesting that we have these 3 planets like exactly at 16 degrees, where like our mind and our actions and our clear seeing are finally together, and they're going to be kind of squaring, not really by degree, but at least by house, Pluto, which is kind of uncovering things that haven't been seen. So we might have this true moment of clarity that will help us now be able to move on. We lit a fire in the moment where it might not explode, it might, but it's a fire we're going to keep feeding in through the rest of this month, and then it's going to grow into something like, pretty large, especially come the full moon. So things will become clear. In terms of the collective, because it's happening in the sign of Libra, it's social. So I feel like the beginning of that was like with when the social media kind of like went off the rails on Monday. But the internet, people gathering groups, things that have to do with that. The sun is present, so it's going to be public. Whatever kind of miscommunication, whatever kind of new information is coming out that's going to affect us, that is that aha moment. We will feel like we can't do anything about it, but the fire is lit for us to start to do something about it. Really focusing or highlighting and spotlighting something, but then also asking the question, well, if we're hyper focused on this, then what is in the shadow? What is lurking around in the shadow? Like, what else do we need to be thinking about? It could be just blurting out information, or information being leaked and then taken back and then being spun in a different way. A load of information that's coming out that we have to then sift through. And then again, as always, trying to figure out what is right, what is wrong, what is truth, what is lie, and all of those types of things. Mistakes and mishaps are obviously okay. They happen all the time. They may also happen during this time. I think the important thing is just to make sure that whatever kind of mistakes or mishaps or inability to move because we're afraid of making mistakes and mishaps, like, it's okay. You can take some action. If it doesn't work out, you course correct and you move forward. I think the issue really comes from making the same mistake over and over and over again. Is that really a mistake, or is that really like a bad habit or a bad choice that you need to correct? So with that being said, there's so much going on. There's a whole lot of like energy of just feeling like a little bit confused and not knowing what's going on. And that's okay. Like, we have those moments. We will have some clarity of sight in all of that. And maybe it is a good time for us to be a little less active, because when you're really confused and you're very active, sometimes you end up making really bad mistakes. So, sometimes I feel like, well, if you don't have the energy to do it, especially with the debilitated Mars and with, Mars being combust the sun. I mean, if you're like working out and things like that, and you just feeling like your workout is not good, or that you haven't felt like working out, or your just energy levels are a little bit all over the place, or they're just not solid like they normally are, just understand Mars will be moving into Scorpio, which is home, and going to have a lot more energy for that. So maybe there are things that we shouldn't be super active on because maybe we don't have all the information, and maybe we need to wait and we need to sift through, and that's kind of frustrating, but that is what it is. And so when we work with the energy, we kind of understand that, and we just then start to categorize and say, okay, this is what I want to do, and then it becomes less frustrating because you know what you're working with. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me today in our Astro Chat. You can also make sure you click and like and subscribe and all of that below, and follow. I'm on Instagram at the_wild_wahine. You can find me on Facebook. I'm also on Clubhouse. You can find all of that information below, where we're doing tarot readings, and we have spiritual talks, and then we're also doing medicine and magic, where we focus on one plant and really talk about all the medicinal and magical ways to use that particular herb. So I'm really excited about the growth that we have going on, and I do have a wonderful Halloween sale that's happening. It's 15% off of all of my consults, so that would be astrological consults and also tarot reading consults. So if you're interested in that, you can just look at the information below. Aloha, and have a wonderful, hopefully stress-free and not so frustrating week. See you at the beach live on Friday. Bye.